Fox, start the recording. There we go. All right, I will call this meeting to order for the Corporation of the Township of Foothills on December 2nd, 2020. And I will start with roll call. Councillor Spoulos.
Present.
Councillor Bailey.
Present.
Councillor Bulmer.
Present.
And Councillor Guida.
Present.
Okay, and we'll begin our moment of reflection. Okay, that concludes our moment of reflection. Ms. White Fox, would you be able to read out the confirmation of the agenda, please?
The council approves the December 2nd, 2020 agenda as circulated, and that council approves the additions to the agenda as follows. Consent item 6.1.3 revised October 13th, 2020 Committee of Adjustment minutes. Correspondence item 10.8 Association of Municipalities of Ontario Rebuild 229 Schedule 6 of the Conservation Authorities Act and the proposed amendments. And closed item 13.2 confidential report from Megan Ferris, County of Wellington Planner, and Kevin Thompson, Smith Villariat Law Firm regarding litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, being the LPAT Appeal PL 2037.
Can I get a mover for that, please?
Sure.
Councillor Spoulos, seconder. Councillor Bailey.
Yep.
Oh, all right. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Councillor Spoulos.
In favor.
Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, in favor.
Councillor Bulmer.
In favor.
And Councillor Guida.
In favor.
Right. Carried. So next is disclosure of pecuniary interest. Do we have any of those today? No. Excellent. So now on to the consent agenda. Ms. White Fox, do you want to read the resolution, and then I'll ask members if they have anything they want to remove?
So I have it that the consent agenda items, with the exception of whatever's discussed, listed for the December 2nd, 2020 council meeting, be received for information. And then if there are items to be discussed and moved to the correspondence section, then that can be included as well.
Sure, we'll just get a mover and a seconder so we can discuss. We have a quick mover. Councillor Spoulos, Councillor Bailey. Councillor Spoulos, have anything you wish to remove?
Yes, I'd like to have item 6.4 conservation Halton letter to Ontario Premier Bill 229 be removed and discussed under correspondence from the other conservation authorities, namely 10.6 and 10.7, and also the AMO 10.8.
Okay, Councillor Bailey, do you have anything?
Nope.
Nope. Councillor Bulmer?
No, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Guida?
Nope.
Okay, perfect. We will do that then. Ms. White Fox, did you capture that?
Yes, I did. Thanks.
Okay. Do we need to reread it, or are we comfortable just calling a vote?
I can reread it. Just
Sure.
it's that the consent agenda items, with the exception of item 6.4 listed for December 2nd, 2020 council meeting, be received for information, and that consent agenda item 6.4 be moved to section 10 correspondence for consideration.
Thank you. Just let me make a little note here. Okay, all in favor, Councillor Spoulos?
In favor.
Okay, Councillor Bailey,
In favor.
Councillor Bulmer,
Favor.
Councillor Guida.
In favor.
Excellent, that's carried. All right. Now we have public meetings. So December 16th, 2020, public meeting held by electronic participation at 7 p.m. Kennel housekeeping amendment. The purpose and effect of the application is to amend the Township of Foothills zoning bylaw 023/18 to rezone the lands from agriculture to agriculture A site specific. zone to permit a dog kennel. These are township initiated housekeeping amendments that have in fact specified lands in the township of Fuslinch. And we have the Diodoro Enterprises. Purpose and effect of the proposed official plan amendment is to redesignate a portion of the Victoria Park Valley Golf Club from the recreational designation to the secondary agricultural designation to facilitate a future vacant lot severance. The zoning bylaw amendment proposes to amend the township of Fuslinch new comprehensive zoning bylaw 23-2018 to rezone a portion of the lands from resort commercial RC SP 51 to agricultural A zone to permit the development of a single detached residential dwelling. Perfect. Board Fuslinch. Let me catch up on my other computer. All right, reports. All right. So the first one is the automatic aid amending. Do we have Chief here to discuss that?
No, I'll be speaking to that if there's any questions.
Okay, sure. Council?
Sure, it's,
Oh, sorry. You can give us a little synopsis?
yeah, it's just a renewal of the existing agreement. All terms and conditions still remain in place, just an extension for a period of 1 year, with the exception of the one description of the vehicle, but our chief has indicated that that's no concern at all, that still equates to the service that they need to provide.
Okay, thank you. Oh, shoot. Councilor Spills?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, Councilor Bailey?
Yeah, no questions.
Okay, Councilor Palmer?
No questions.
No questions? Yeah, Councilor Goida?
No questions.
No? Okay, Ms. White Fox, you read the resolution for that one, please?
That report ADM 2020-046 regarding amending agreement automatic aid be received, and that the Township of Fuslinch Council give 3 readings to bylaw 2020-056, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the automatic aid amending agreement dated November 25th, 2020 to extend services until December 31st, 2021.
Thank you. Can I mover, please? Councilor Spillis, he's fast on the draw. Seconder, Councilor Goida. Any questions or comments? All in favor, Councilor Spillis,
In favor?
Councilor Bailey,
In favor?
Councilor Balmer,
In favor.
and Councilor Goida,
In favor.
and that's carried. Now, I believe we're going to have some individuals join us for this next report.
That's correct.
Mr. James and
Rob McCann from Clear Cable is joining
There
us
we
as
go.
well.
Rob McCann.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you.
We'll just make sure that Mr. James is in. There he is. Okay, I don't know which one of you wants to go first, but the floor is yours. Actually, before I give you the floor, I will just say that we don't need a word-by-word review of the presentation, and
Right.
but try to don't you know, alleviate some of or forget some of your important points, but try to be cognizant of time slightly. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and councilors, and I thank you for the time today. Before I get rolling, I just want to acknowledge the work of the Broadband Committee, that what they had done before this project was undertaken and the critical feedback that they provided during it. I get lots of opportunity to work with communities across the country, and the most successful ones are ones who have engaged citizens, and this committee was definitely a testament to that, so thank you. The scope of our project really was to look at what the options were to improve broadband in the township, and to be able to run through some of those particular scenarios, ultimately to come forward with some ideas and some recommendations. The problem, of course, as you all know from the University of Guelph study, is that a lot of the residents do not have service that matches the CRTC service objective. In fact, we identified that there are some major gap areas, 1,577 homes in the west and southeast. And there are also some smaller gap areas, which I'll try to show you on the maps. The reason why this is a problem is because the density is sparse, less than 15 houses per square kilometer in the major gap areas, which makes it very inefficient for private sector service providers to actually build and service a market. This could be solved in these major gap areas with a municipal fiber to the home build, which is a budget of about $13.5 million. And I'll walk you through a couple of the different options as we go through. But the problem, of course, is that the payback period is pretty long. And it turns out that there is a very competitive market in the township. And we'll talk to that a little bit as well. This is the current state map that you've probably seen. On the left-hand side is the CRTC's mapping of where they believe there are services. The dark brown areas are places where 75 to 100% of homes actually have the CRTC 50 by 10 recommendation. The spots who have no color at all, those are only 5 by 1. So you can see that there's large portions of the territory that's not covered. The middle one is the existing public information from service providers that are servicing the township today. They're color coordinated by a service provider name. So red is Rogers, yellow is Standard Broadband, green is ATEL, purple is Waterloo Wireless, blue is Bell. You'll see here that this is not an exhaustive list of coverage. The reason is because some of the operators didn't want their coverage disclosed publicly, so we could only put what we had in public information. But it is a pretty accurate representation of what's available. And what that creates for us on the right-hand side are these major gap areas. Those are the big sections where we're really missing the level of service that's necessary. I mentioned secondary gap areas. There's also some secondary gap areas that fall in between very small clusters of homes, in between multiple service providers that are currently serviced by some wireless service providers today, but not to the service level that we would expect. In terms of technologies, there's a wide range of technologies that are actually deployed or options to deploy here. Of course, digital subscriber line is available, Bell DSL, but even Bell themselves points out that it's very poor service because of the distance to the central offices. Cable or hybrid fiber coax is what Rogers deploys there, and in their markets they have areas where they can provide very high speeds. And fiber to the home, of course, we know is already in the Morriston Puslinch Lake areas, but there is more being built by Standard Broadband and a few others as well. Largely, there's big pockets that are served by LTE 4G wireless. And as I came on today, I heard the discussion about ExploreNet and their upgrades. There is not 5G available today, but certainly some of these operators will be upgrading to 5G. The problem is that upgrades to 5G have much shorter coverage areas, which mean considerably more tower infrastructure, and which is very costly to deploy. So it's probably not going to happen on large scale in rural communities. There are several backbone service providers in the area, Hydro One Telecom and Zio. These folks only service fiber backbone. In other words, they deliver to other service providers or to large enterprises. Otherwise, they just pass through the territory. I know we're hearing lots in the press today about low Earth orbit satellites being an option. The reality is there are no viable options available today. We saw some exciting news with the approval of some spectrum, but we also saw that there's much turmoil in that market. The leading one, OneWeb, has gone bankrupt. The Telesat has been sold over to Lorac. So we're seeing some things happening in the market, and we don't think that we're going to have a timeline that's less than 3 years for LEO to actually bring services to the area. And then, of course, there's mobile and Wi-Fi, which we sort of excluded, and satellite, which we excluded because we determined that we're looking at fixed services actually to the homes, and we're looking for ones that are going to be of high capacity, and none of these will deliver that service. So those are the range of technologies, and the strategies that are available for the township are actually to go ahead and build all of it and become the ISP. We're seeing that happen in some markets with a range of 2 million to 13.5 million. You could build the network and then lease it out to other service providers. So in other words, you're de-risking them by making the investments in the ground, and we call this an open access network. The challenge here, of course, is having the cost and having service providers to lease it. There are public-private partnerships where the town partners with some other provider who is going to come in. And usually this means that the township is backstopping the cost of providing some kinds of guarantees. And we'll talk about one of these a little bit later. You can encourage service providers to build. We hear over and over from service providers that they are going to choose jurisdictions where it's easy to build. And we've gotten some very positive feedback, which is going to be a large portion of what we talk about today. You may also be hearing about conduit placement and dig one policies. Some municipalities, particularly urban ones, are talking about this. Every time they rip up a road, they put in extra conduit, or every time there's going to be something dug, they try to get all of the utilities at the same place. The challenge here is it's very hard to ensure that the conduit is going to be in the places where people need it to be, and it can often only fit one service provider. So we're not big fans of conduit placement just for the fact of placing it. It can be an expensive endeavor that can end up wasted. And the dig once policies we hear from service providers usually force them to use contractors that are much higher costs than they're accustomed to using. So they prefer to actually do it themselves. Finally, something that is just starting to get some attention is the notion of a municipal broadband levy. We don't see this as a popular option yet. We only know one township who is considering or has implemented it. It could potentially be useful in a place where there's no access, but it's a very tough sell in a competitive marketplace. And a competitive marketplace, I think, is an important overarching message for your market here where you are. We don't need to step through the cost chart at all. I provided this so that you have the details and the breakdown of what it would be to build your own ISP, which is the first 3 columns, and then what it would be to build an open access network, which are the second 3 columns. And these are really budgetary numbers that if you were to choose going to do this, and the reason why we went through this exercise was to figure out what the actual costs would be if that was an option. And you'll see down at the very bottom that servicing the number of homes with that type of investment has a very high capital cost, also has a significant operating cost that doesn't return as much back to the municipality as we would have hoped it would. So what happens is you end up with 10-year payback periods, which are too far for an ISP because it means you're going to have to reinvest probably in 5 years again. Certainly not an attractive option. And one of the reasons it's not attractive is because of these existing service providers. The town we acknowledge that the service level is below where the township would like it to be, but it does enjoy 13 engaged large and small service providers all delivering service in the township. And as I said earlier, they prefer to work where it's easy. 8 of those 13 expressed interest in various levels of collaboration, and 6 of them are already existing local providers, and 2 of them are new entrants who want to come to the area. So that's pretty exciting news. 2 of them require some kind of funding arrangement. One of them has already filed for the Ontario ICON, and one of them just ended up dropping out of communications. But 4 of them have near-term upgrade expansion plans. In fact, since the time we wrote this slide deck, one of them has already made some upgrades. And then 4 of the smaller ones have agreed to ongoing engagement and discussions to start to expand their services. And really what they're saying is that an awareness of that collaboration opportunities is essential. So one of our major recommendations is that we don't think the township needs to make an investment directly in building and operating an ISP or an open access network. We think that it's most appropriate to facilitate or convene that market response to filling the gaps, and doing that by encouraging those service providers to build where we want and need them to build, and to expedite their approvals and help them with their coordinated construction efforts. If you need some proof that it works, since we started this project, you saw the existing map earlier. Well, there's 2 areas that are additions to Standard Broadband's network, were added specifically based on feedback through the project and through residents who had brought areas forward and delivered to the service provider. And those were added to their construction. And ISL, or Standard Broadband as they're known in town, is actually signing up customers today. In fact, they're preparing their municipal consent submissions for this area down here as well, to put fiber in that area, as well as to put fiber down in the Morriston and Puslinch area. So those will be forthcoming if they haven't arrived already. And we know that Standard Broadband is continuing to increase investment in the area. We also know that ATEL, which is a wireless service provider, has already implemented an upgrade that services this area here. So we haven't yet got feedback or seen enough tests from the performance data, but certainly they've made an investment to do some improvements. Down in these two areas here, we know that Rogers has submitted an application to ICON for funding. So they are now in the second phase, and we should hope to hear shortly whether they're going to go ahead and build fiber to the home in those areas. Secondary to that, as I've already mentioned, Standard Broadband is putting some facilities in down in this area as well. So simply by encouraging these folks to do the things that we needed to do, they've started to do it. We also have a speculative interest that's just come in recently for this area here, which is a small subdivision of Rogers that does wireless out of Hamilton. So we have a prospective project that might come into this area as well that still has some work. And then lastly, we've been approached by BAI Communications. They started actually in the county by talking to Wellington North. They're trying to put together a county-wide program where they would build in the gap areas for each of the townships and own and operate the infrastructure, and then lease that infrastructure out to the other service providers. What's interesting about them is that they are funded by CPP, and they are also looking at the Canadian Infrastructure Bank. So it's not something that's guaranteed yet, but it is certainly some level of interest that could help continue to push out fiber to the home in this particular region. We also took the opportunity to get direct feedback from the ISPs. And I think that this is the important message to continue on post this project. They're experiencing delays in getting locates and delays in getting pole permits. And they could certainly use some assistance lobbying towards those organizations to expedite that type of access in order to help them continue to build their network. They would love to hear from the township on where the problem areas are, even on a case by case. One of the things in our large report, we point out there are those primary gap areas or major gaps, but there's a whole bunch of these little secondary gaps, which are just tiny pockets of homes. And getting that feedback of those specific homes that are challenged will be helpful to each of the service providers. And of course, several of them are going to go to all of the funding programs that are coming up now. So letters of support are always appreciated, and having something ready on the go to be able to issue a letter of support would be very helpful. The service providers are not so enthusiastic about getting access to municipal space or public or shared assets, but it would certainly be worthwhile to continue to consider the ability to make municipal space available. And we know that there's already a request forthcoming for someone who wants to put a tower on municipal land. These may be things that will continue to help. A couple of the service providers pointed out that they like to use some new fiber installation techniques or lower cost alternatives in order to help keep their costs down. Some of those practices are not permitted in the county. So there was a request to be able to work with the county and see if some of these types of techniques could get approved to help them expedite their services. And then lastly, while we believe that there is already utility coordination, some of the service providers said that they had a challenge getting access during road reconstruction for them to put their own conduit in. And we think this is an opportunity to encourage, so we should find ways to be able to help them do that. We also note that in the areas that are serviced by wireless, sometimes the tower costs that have to go at the residence can be in the hundreds to thousands of dollars. So Standard Broadband had suggested consideration of some kind of municipal tax rebate scheme that might help residents that have more difficult installs. And then lastly, the service providers said that they would be open to ongoing meetings and updates to create this dialogue in order to continue to fill in the gaps in the community. So our second major recommendation is to hire a telecom coordinator or broadband specialist to assist the town and the service providers by contributing to that overall effort, particularly from an economic development expertise, but also helping ensure that there's timely approval and implementation of the capacity and making sure that everybody understands where the challenges are and where the solutions need to be. And this this person could also lobby and advocate to the other levels of government in order to be able to ensure development continues. And we think that that's probably a 24-month term, and we budgeted and provided a job description, but a budget of about $8K per month. And I know that we're looking at potential options with Glenn for how to fund such a position. But this telecom coordinator would be able to resolve those issues of residents, or not necessarily resolve, but at least convene a resolution with the service providers for those pockets or those secondary gap areas. A couple of the other recommendations that come out, we really should be projecting infrastructure demand. Where are the active areas of growing going to happen, and getting that into the hands of the service providers in advance of it actually happening so they can add that to their plans. Collaborating with the county to develop those new technologies, and then providing some public relations support as these new launches come about, because we will start seeing, well, we have already saw standard broadband launch already in their new area, but we will continue to see more coming in the spring and through the summer. In the end, we provided a list of next steps, which really says provide letters of support, coordinate the existing projects, expedite the approvals, do some promotion locally for the new service launches, budget and appoint that telecom coordinator, consider the lower cost opportunities, assist the service providers, and investigate ways to help expedite utility locates. All of this is really about communication and coordination, which is why we think the telecom coordinator role is so important. I open the floor for questions.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate your presentation. A few of the notes I've wrote down here. Ontario One Call is responsible for the locates, and you're mentioning that you're having trouble, but they're a private company. Do they fall under the purview of any of the ministries, or who do they report to or responsible to?
That I don't know who their reporting entity is, but those are exactly the people that we need to appeal to. The One Call is the people we need to appeal to. I can find out those details and have them forwarded through the broadband committee.
That would be great. The other thing, the same situation with the pole permits, is that through Hydro One, or?
Some of them are Hydro One, some of them are Bell, that's right.
So if you can provide me a list of the cages I need to rattle, then I can do that for you.
Okay, perfect.
And I'd like to congratulate John on his new appointment as the coordinator for this. So I just saved the township $8,000 a month. We'll pay your mileage, John. Getting back to being a little more serious, I don't understand the job entirely, but would the coordinator have too much work if they were to represent all the member municipalities in Wellington County to address these gaps?
I think that would be a significant undertaking. I mean, obviously any advancement is better than no advancement. So if the only path forward was to do it on a county basis, then that would be, a step in the right direction. I would prefer to see you have someone dedicated to these particular areas for at least, the next, like I said, 24 months.
Okay, thank you. All right, Councillor Spoulos.
Yes, the way I see it, the continued rollout of the improved internet service is going to hinge greatly on a telecom coordinator. He's going to have to, he or she's going to have to work very closely with the various ISPs, keep them engaged, as well as pursue other issues cited in the report, such as construction technology, getting on a bandwagon with the locate services, that sort of thing. Rather than asking Rob questions, I'm quite conversant with the report. I'd like to ask our CEO a couple of questions. With regard to funding the coordinator position, have you been able to identify any other sources of funding?
We're still in the process of evaluating a number of different options. We've approached the County Economic Development Department to see if they have any internal funds or external funds that they're aware of, and they're looking into that to consolidate some information to get back to us. We've also approached the Community Futures Office to see if there's any assistance that might be available through any of their programs that they might be aware of. We're also looking at, we've contacted other municipal partners adjacent to us and around the county to see if they have similar projects, or if they have a position that has some available capacity that we could share in. And a few of them have expressed some positive interest. They wanted to get a little bit more information before they can make a decision on it. And another option would be, and I think it wouldn't be one item that would fund it all in its entirety. We'd need a combination of these various approaches. But another one might be, and this is how this type of position is funded in other municipalities, is through some of the permit and application fees that the ISPs would apply for when they're requesting permits to install within the municipal rights of way. So there's a permit fee associated with that, and then that would help offset the staff costs associated with it. So there's a whole suite of potential funding streams that we're still in the process of looking at. But we just wanted to get the idea in front of council to see if you're in support of it. And then if you are, then we could come back with some potential funding opportunities.
Okay, another recommendation report is the media events to acknowledge ISPs. Would you please comment on the activities that you may have anticipated for the future?
Sure. Like Rob mentioned when he was making his presentation, communication is key, and the more we can get the public engaged as well, and the public aware of work that's going on in the community and potential service providers that they might have access to, the better for everyone. So what we're looking at is some of the firms who are currently in the process or in the planning stages of installing new fiber within the community, just setting up a photo op opportunity to have some municipal representation there on site, and just to draw attention and show our support and thanks for the work that they're doing within the community. So we're looking at a few possibilities of doing that sometime in the near future.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'll let everybody else go around the table, but I've got two motions that I'll read. One of them relates to delegating the authority to sign letters of support to you and the CAO. And the second motion is to ask the county for funding. The logic I have is all the municipalities participated in a SWIFT program. In essence, our taxpayers contributed to that program. And unfortunately, we didn't receive any benefit from the SWIFT program, whereas other county municipalities did. So my motion is to ask the county to support at least 50% of the cost of this position. I think given the fact that we lucked out and didn't get any SWIFT initiative in our neck of the woods, I think it's only fair that they come across and help us out on this regard. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Mr. James, I didn't give you an opportunity to speak prior to going to council. Was there anything you wanted to add to Rob's presentation?
A few things, really. I don't think there'll be any surprises. First of all, thanks very much, Mr. Mayor and members of council for this opportunity to talk about the report. The committee had a really good chance to review the report and ask questions of Rob, and we're quite pleased with it. We're pleased with it and its recommendations. We're especially pleased with the recommendation that talks about bringing on a telecom coordinator, and for all the reasons that Rob has articulated and you folks have discussed. We think that encouragement of ISPs is really, really important. They have a choice as to where they spend their money. We think that that person could, we hope, effectively work with council and staff, and perhaps there's a role for us in there too to help set priorities within the township. And speaking of priorities, we think that the first priority in a general sense, not the only one, but the first one should be to work in areas of the township that don't have good service today and that likely won't get good service anytime soon if we leave it up to market forces alone. So we think that that's important. We truly believe, and certainly, you know, I've gained a little bit of an understanding as to the difficulty around budgeting for this, but we truly believe that bringing on that coordinator sooner as opposed to later is a good idea. That the sooner that those efforts start, the sooner that we're going to see results. Just a couple of other side notes, if you will. We hope, we anticipate, and we hope that ISPs will continue to apply for ICON funding over the next several months. And we hope and expect that council and staff will support those efforts of those ISPs in whatever way that they can. And our committee going forward, we're very happy to take whatever role makes sense going forward around this. Certainly I know that there's been good progress so far, and we're quite happy with that generally, and we're quite happy with the effort that Rob and his team have made, and Glenn has made as well through all of this. It's been heartening. And to be able to see positive progress over the last year and a half is very, very good. We as a committee, we continue to foster discussion and information sharing among residents. And we do that mostly through our Facebook group page that has over 350 members now. And so we'll continue those. We just, for your own information, we continue to meet once every 2 weeks. And we continue to have very active engagement on the part of the members of the committee. So we're looking forward to the future.
Thank you, Mr. James. As soon as you mentioned the 350 members on Facebook, has there been any public fundraising to support this telecom coordinator position? I read all the posts. Everybody's upset about internet and wanting more. Yeah. Would there be an interest for them to contribute?
Well, it might be something that we consider. Certainly, we felt as though trying that in advance of tabling this report today would be a little premature, but
sure.
but it's something that we should think creatively about. Yes,
I agree. Okay, thank you, Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rob, for the great report. It really kind of put everything into a package for me that gave me enough background and enough looking forward to kind of see where we're going. And thanks to Glenn, to your committee, like you've mentioned, the social media has really brought the conversation forward, and there does seem to be a lot of engagement there, which can only get better. I think that's a great place to start. I did just have and I don't know who to direct this to. I'm just wondering if there's any other municipalities around us that have talked about getting a coordinator, or are we sort of the first within the county to be talking about this?
Sure, I could speak to that. I put this specific question out to all the member municipalities, all the lower tiers within the county, to say, here's the position, here's what its main roles would be. Is this something that you have in place, or something that you can foresee that you would have need for? Because a lot of municipalities are in a similar boat. I haven't heard back from all of them yet. Some are definitely interested. Some of them have said that they're not interested because they're proceeding quite well and they have a lot of SWIFT projects underway and things like that, so they don't really have a need. But there's a couple, or two or three that I've heard from so far that are definitely interested, want to hear a little bit more about it.
Okay, I just wondering whether it could be a part-time or a shared, not with all municipalities, like Mayor Seeley said, but just maybe sharing it with one other municipality and doing more of a part-time role. Didn't know if that was in discussion. Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly the one approach we're looking at, similar to what we're doing with our bylaw enforcement officer, same kind of concept.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And then maybe Rob, you can just talk about the private towers. I think you mentioned something about sort of residents doing their own sort of private tower. Is that something that would help with these small gaps, and can they share it then with neighbors? And do you know of any funding for a resident to go that route?
So the section I was speaking to specifically was the receive side. So some of the folks, because of the geography, they can't see the actual transmit towers. So on their properties, they need to put up sometimes fairly substantial, as high as 15 meters towers in order to be able for them to receive internet. And those are the ones that have the significant amount of expense, which they then would, they'd have to incur in order to be able to receive the internet service. Whether or not they were to share that, I don't think they could just share it. They would have to become an ISP in order to do that. But there are some service providers who already today approach private landowners and put up towers, right? ATEL is one of those folks. And the prospective one we have in the far northwest right now is also thinking about wanting to approach a private landowner to see if they could put up a tower there. So that's possible. There are funding opportunities for those, but as far as an individual resident putting one up and then sharing it with their neighbors is probably not going to be realistic for them. And if I could jump back to your other question about other areas. So a great example is Durham region. So they do have a broadband specialist that services the entire region and is overseeing sort of what projects are going on and what service providers are doing. So that one is shared at scale. I think that to get your needs met, having someone focused locally is important. But then just down the road in Hamilton, they created a chief digital officer role. And one of the roles of the CDO is to actually do this coordination with the service providers. So there are some options there for sure.
Yeah, I like the sound of a digital operator that maybe down the road could help us with other needs once the once the internet part settles in. Good, thank you very much.
Hey, Councillor Bulmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and welcome, Mr. McCann and Mr. James. Thank you very much for your presentation. Just before I ask any questions, I would like to also acknowledge Councillors Poulos and Mr. James for getting the ball rolling on this, and all the committee members who have volunteered their time towards this effort that some may not benefit from their own efforts. They may already have decent service, but they're doing it to benefit the community. And that speaks volumes to people willing to volunteer their time to get involved. So Mr. James, if you could pass that along to your committee members, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, will do. I also want to thank John for stepping forward and making such a huge effort on this thing. I don't think that everyone on council knows the effort that Councillor Sapoulos makes, and he really supports our committee very well.
That's good to hear. I guess whenever I think of any problem, you always need to know what you have and what you want to get. So I was really fascinated by the assets map of what we already have. And I know from dealing with various ISPs in the township and trying to get service myself, they're as you mentioned, very secret. No, I don't want to. Yeah, secretive would be probably the right word as to where their assets are, and don't want to tell you exactly their coverage areas. So, how was it you were able to get that information? I don't know. Was that the committee or was it the Clear Cable that put all that information together here about where things are in the township and to help show where the needs are?
Well, I would say that the committee certainly put together a pretty substantial inventory beforehand, and then we simply leveraged our relationships with several of the service providers in order to get them to come forward and put those assets on the table. As I said, there are several who just wouldn't, right? They don't want their public assets known. But what we're finding is that that's changing everywhere across the country, because the service providers are realizing that in these less urban markets, they need to be more cooperative. So, you have someone like Standard Broadband who has posted everywhere he is and everywhere he's going on his website. You can go there now and see that part in the eastern section and the Morriston section that he intends to build. And folks like ATEL and Waterloo Wireless are becoming more open to doing that. We still have challenges, of course, with the larger ones, but I do think that over time that's going to change.
Well, that's good news. And it's evident from the report that having that information out there and the communications to date with the ISPs has started the ball rolling. There's momentum happening. So I understand why there's a need to get a coordinator in place before that momentum slows and peters out, as it would take as much work again to get it going again. So I can see the impetus for that. The question I have, I guess Councillor Bailey touched on it, and so did the mayor, is there really enough here just in Puslinch for full-time when I see how much has happened to date without one, based on the work the committee has done? Now, there's a lot of them, and Councillor Zapoulis and Mr. James have worked very hard. I'm not taking away from that, but I'm struggling with the need for a complete full-time position just for here, as opposed to the benefits of sharing one either with with Guelph Aramasa or another member municipality. And I think I heard the answer to that when you were speaking to Councillor Bailey, unless there's anything else you want to add.
Well, yeah, again, I come back to my position is that if you want to move things quickly and fill in the gaps quickly, then it needs to have the full-time dedication of someone who's looking out for the economic development of the township while still marshaling all those service providers to the place that they need to be. They'll be talking to residents, they'll be talking to other levels of government, they'll be talking to the folks who control the locates and the polls, right? They'll really be a facilitator. And even if there was any downtime, part of that downtime could be used towards either a lot more lobbying or actually assisting with applications for additional grants in order to continue to build, or taking more inventories, or working with the internal township departments in order to ensure that the next phase of planning is coming. I don't think it's a forever role, right? We said we think it's about 24 months worth of work, but really it just comes down to how fast you want to try to move things versus, how slow you want it to go.
Okay, thank you. And one of the pieces you mentioned to fund that position was possibly participation by the ISPs. Was that just a pulled from the air idea, or did some of them express a potential interest in that?
Well, I think that was one that we've been discussing internally. I don't think that's anything that's been presented at this point.
Right. And then last question to a point that Councillor Bailey raised regarding towers, and you mentioned possibly sharing. I didn't see any discussion on devices such as mesh potatoes or things like that to expand, to create smaller networks in pockets where a big provider can't get to. Do you see those as being a potential, those types of products being a potential? If someone puts up a tower and then uses a mesh potato system to expand it?
Yeah, the challenge would be that you end up with a lot of small towers and a lot of technology that needs to be maintained and operated. And really that takes a level of coordination and a level of skill set to do that in a reliable fashion. So we really focused our efforts on what are the ways to deliver a good performance service that's going to be well managed. And it really is either building a full service ISP or getting those other ISPs to actually build it up.
Okay, thank you. So to declare, that would be, you're focusing on ISP level solutions as opposed to consumer level solutions
That's
that
right.
people could explore themselves. Okay, thank you very much. And thank you for all your work.
Excellent. Councillor Goyda?
Thank you. I too just wanted to start by echoing the rest of council and thanking the committee and Councillor Zapoulis. I think we really are very fortunate to have you sort of spearheading this committee. And as you said, Rob, I think we're very fortunate to live in such an engaged community. So I just want to echo everyone's thanks on that. I did have many of the similar questions that have already been raised, but just to touch on a couple of them. The telecom coordinator, that position, would it be recommended that that is a township employee, or could there be benefit for that being, or does there even exist perhaps on a consultant type basis that something like that could be executed?
Well, from my perspective, it'll come down to what you ultimately decide as strategy. I think that there is a big value in that person being in the township, potentially associated with the economic development aspects of the township, and then following directly the directions that you want for them. Certainly it could be a contract position, it could be a consultation position, it could be a shared position. I do think the options are open. Just our recommendations are that you'd have a full-time person dedicated to your needs for that period.
Okay. And so then just this is just sort of, I'm just sort of thinking of this on the fly, but it's difficult to gauge whether, how much, what the workload of that position would be. But in the past, and I know I've spoken to Councillor Bailey about this, we have spoken about possibly our social media presence and a social media coordinator. And that's something that we also don't have in the township. And to me, that kind of goes hand in hand with economic development. And so perhaps, I don't know what the expertise level of this particular position would hold, but perhaps if there's no opportunity to share with another municipality, perhaps that's an added value to a full-time employee. Sort of just thinking out loud here. Not really a question, sorry. The other question I wanted to ask, perhaps this is something I would ask the CAO, is there was some discussion about identifying problem areas, so just the tiny little pockets, and even on a case-by-case basis. And I'm wondering if there's any opportunity with this new public engagement tool that I believe is to be rolling out in the new year, the Bang the Table software, if there's any mechanism through there where we could set up some kind of tool for individual residences to give feedback on their connectivity.
Yes, it's definitely something that we could incorporate into that, and you're going to be hearing later today about an update on that implementation of that. What I would want to do before we embarked on something like that is just to see how we can coordinate that through the committee, because I know the committee itself has done a considerable amount of work to solicit that exact feedback that you're talking about. Okay. And they have an extraordinary amount of data that they've been compiling, and that's the source people are going to already, like you said, with 300 plus connections there, that's doing that already. So yes, we could, but if we did that, I wouldn't want to negatively impact all the work that they've done and maybe create some confusion of having it in two different spots. So it's something we'd want to take a look at for sure, but okay. I didn't want to take anything away from the work the committee did. They've got a lot of that stuff done already.
Okay, thank you.
All right, one follow-up question for myself. Has anybody approached the ISPs and asked them to hire their own telecom coordinator? If gravel companies came to us and asked us to put on a staff or to lobby the government to help them with their permits and things like that, I think it'd be a different conversation around this horseshoe. So I have concerns with hiring staff members and them filling out paperwork for companies to apply for grants. That should be done internally with their own employees. So I think that avenue should be investigated, and maybe they need to organize themselves and call themselves an association. But I'm not trying to squash the idea right away, but some of the talk around here was really kind of stretching the boundaries of what a municipal employee should be doing, as far as I was feeling comfortable with. But that's not to say that I'm still looking forward to hearing back from Mr. Schwendinger once Councillor Spoulos says his motions. I'm sure they're going to pass, and we'll see the numbers, and we'll definitely think outside the box on this one and see what we can come up with. Councillor Spoulos.
Yes, you want me to read the motions?
Yes, please.
Okay, Courtney, do you have them, or would you rather I read them?
I do have them, Councillor Sapoulis, and I've compiled them into the existing resolution to receive the report as well. So I can read them off if you prefer.
Sure.
So the first part of that motion of Councillor Sapoulis' motion is that the mayor and CAO be delegated the authority to sign letters of support for ISPs, requesting such letters when applying for provincial or federal project funding. And the second part.
Let's deal with that one. Let's deal with that one first. Just go quickly. So can I get a mover for that, or a seconder for that motion?
I'll move.
And well, Councillor Spools moved, so you'll
Oh, I'll
second.
second, sure.
All right, any quick discussion on that one? Councillor Bailey? No. Councillor Balmer?
Nope.
Councillor Goida?
Nope.
Okay, all in favor? Councillor Spools?
In favor?
Councillor Bailey?
In favor?
Okay, Councillor Balmer?
In favor.
Councillor Goida?
In favor.
That one's done. Sorry, Ms. White Fox. Now you can read the second one. There might be more discussion around that one.
Okay. And then I do have just the third and final to receive the report, but I'll read Councillor Sepulveda's second motion. So whereas the county has provided funding to the SWIFT Internet Funding Program, and whereas the Township of Puslinch should not receive any benefit from the SWIFT initiative and other county municipalities did, and whereas the Township of Puslinch has developed a strategy through its study to provide improved internet services to its residents, in which involves the hiring of a telecom coordinator at a cost of approximately $8,000 per month for 24 months. Be it resolved that the township requests the county to assist with the funding at least 50% of the cost of this position, and that the township broadband strategy report be provided to the county to assist with their deliberations on this matter.
Seconder for that, please.
Sure.
Councillor Goida. Councillor Spools, I like the direction of the motion. I don't like starting the motion off with a negative, talking about, not, we contribute to SWIFT, and then we kind of sound like we were left out and, we're bitter. That's just my concern. I know it's semantics and wording, but I don't know. I just felt that the motion starts off kind of negative tone, whereas if it had have maybe said, how important broadband is to the community and we want to develop a coordinator, but I don't believe I need to wordsmith it, but that's just my feedback. So who seconded that? Councillor Goida? So Councillor Bailey, comments?
Oops. Yeah, I as well like the direction it's going. Maybe if we just flip it front to back, that might help your wording concerns. Like start with what our plan is and then go back to why we can't afford it or why we need the help.
Yeah, I like the idea of approaching them for help for sure.
Yeah, I like that.
Councillor Balmer?
Thank you. I support the direction this is pointing, but we did hear from the CAO that he has other irons in the fire, and regarding other municipal, county partners or member municipalities in the county. I guess I'm just not at the point yet that I'd want to make this motion, but I would like to hear back from the CAO in a report on this option, what the appropriate percentage might be, and what our potential partner might be. Another municipality, another one of the ISPs. Just, I'm not prepared to go with that 50% from asking from the county yet, because that implies that we might have to come up with the other 50%. And I just would like a little bit more background from the CAO on what the choices might be to achieve this position, because I would like this. I don't want to lose the momentum. So I guess my interest is going forward with something that had a little bit more chance of being successful that was cost effective for us, and also to have the CAO look into the concerns that you just addressed before this to make sure that the position is not seen as a booster for a particular company, because those are interesting comments, and I'd like a chance to better understand those implications. So I support the direction, but I'm not sure I could support this motion as it is.
Thank you. Councillor Goida?
Yeah, I think I have sort of the same mindset as the rest of council. I do like the direction, and I understand where it's going, and I don't want to lose the momentum, but I don't know if perhaps Councillor Sepulveda would be comfortable sort of tabling this until we hear back on some of the funding, as Councillor Balmer put it, the irons in the fire. And if not, then I would at least like to perhaps, as Councillor Bailey said, sort of flip the wording of it. But I do support the intent of the motion.
Councillor Spoulos, would you be interested in waiting for some feedback from the CAO on potential partners prior to tabling this motion? And he obviously he's heard the direction, he would be inquiring along those routes as well.
Yeah, just a question of CEO, when would he think he'd be able to come forward with some sort of answer?
I was hoping to hear back from more municipalities at this point, as I'll be following up with them. So that would be hopefully quite soon. One of the options that we do want to pursue as well is the opportunity to engage with the ISPs themselves. And obviously that'll be an interesting discussion in that, right? But we have to frame it in the correct way to so that they can understand our perspective as well. I don't know if we could get it for the for the next meeting. I could try, but it would likely be the first meeting in January.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, here's my concern. It's budget time and the county is trying to set their budget, and I'm really concerned that we'll miss an opportunity with this budget cycle if we don't act sooner. I'm willing to take out the negative connotations. In other words, just say, whereas the county has provided funding Swift Internet Funding Program, and then move in to say, whereas the township has developed a strategy through its study to provide internet service to its residents, which involves blah, blah, blah. In other words, I'll take out that second negative paragraph, and 50%, if you think it's too rich, I would, I don't want it to say that we'll give you 10%, and that doesn't achieve anything for us. So I'm willing to take out the second whereas and leave everything in as is, so that we don't miss the budget cycle that the county is going through.
Yeah, I'm more supportive of it now. I have the same concerns with Councillor Balmer and what I brought up about, the duties of this position, but as long as you understand that the county may come forward with a number for funding, and it doesn't mean we're going to make up the 70%. It's still going to be a discussion about whether it's still a possibility within our means, because we know the budget's difficult this year and we have to prioritize. So, but those are all conversations we can have. So if you want to go through sooner rather than later, then I'm willing to help you with that, and we'll see where it ends. Councillor, I'll go around one more time. Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, sorry, this is an ask just in regards to the position. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm just wondering if you kept it more vague, maybe do an ask toward the strategy, not necessarily toward the position. I don't know if that makes the difference in the wording, and you do more of a, maybe not a percent, but a lump sum. Anyway, just a thought.
If I was the county, I would be saying, well, what do you want the money for? And the report clearly outlines the funding this position. I really can't think of any other logic that would be acceptable to them that what we require the funding for.
Okay, fair enough. Yep.
I picked 50%. I could just say assist with the funding, and my concern is they'll give you 10% and they'll say that's all we got. Sorry.
You better start at 50 and then they bring you down to 10.
Yeah.
Councillor Balmer. Oh, you're muted, sir. Still muted. Hi. Spacebar is broken. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. Good point Councillor Spoulos made regarding timing, and good points Councillor Bailey made there. So I think what disturbed me was the 50% as opposed to a dollar ask. So if we asked for 50, the amount that's 50% of the recommended amount, and I also, based on Councillor Bailey's suggestions, certainly the position, but position the ask more as this is a pilot project that could benefit other member municipalities. This is not just for our benefit, but this is a position that, if successful here, could be modeled and could be shared with neighboring municipalities, so that it becomes not just an ask for us, but it looks more like a county-wide economic development ask. So that if it becomes like we do with the bylaw enforcement officer, they see it as municipalities working together, which is where we started this term of council. I recall there was funding available from the province to do just that, to develop collaboration projects where we could work together to achieve goals as opposed to doing things independently. So I think in that regard, I could certainly support and ask for $1, because actually, to me, the dollar amount to the county might look smaller than asking for 50%. So if we were to ask for the 40,000 or whatever the 50% would be, and position the ask in terms of a pilot project that could be replicated across the county, it'd be, to Councillor Bailey's point, it's a positive ask as opposed to we were left out. So I could support that.
Okay. Councillor Spillis, you need to determine where you'd like this to land at the county. We can maybe talk offline if you want to start an ECDev meeting, or if you want to go to finance. I think we can have those conversations.
Economic development is the better location, because it assists with the economic well-being of the residents.
Okay. All right. So unless we need further conversation, I'm going to call a vote on that.
Councillor Goyda, have any questions?
Oh, sorry, Councillor Goyda. I thought
It's okay. No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I've gone around a couple times, so I was losing track.
Okay.
Okay. So all in favor, Councillor Spillis?
I'm in favor, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Bailey,
Yep, in favor.
Councillor Ballmer,
Did we reword it any, or is it just exactly the same?
I can reword it if
I
you want.
believe he removed that first part.
50%.
Okay,
So I'll leave it up to staff to recalculate the number.
perfect. And I'm in favor.
You're in favor of that? Okay. And Councillor Goyda?
Sorry, I just want to clarify. The motion will now have the dollar figure rather than the percentage.
That's what Councilor Ballmer suggested, and I can accept that as a friendly amendment.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm in favor.
And Ms. Whitebox, you've got that captured to your satisfaction?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
If I could, Mr. Chair, still, I don't want to lose sight of the other issue that we talked about, which is having the CAO report back, so that if and when the county does come through with that support, we have a report that'll help us know how to implement the funding, or how to make use of the funding we're going to receive, sort of how we're going to structure this position if we get funding, that kind of thing.
Ms. White-Fox, the resolution to receive the broadband report, can you add that clarification that Councillor Ballmer just mentioned, that the council wishes to have CAO report back on those items?
Sure, I can read you what we have for the receiving of the report. That the Township of Puslinch Council received for information the Township of Puslinch Broadband Strategy Report and presentation by Clear Cable, and that the Township of Puslinch Council received a letter of support from the Puslinch High Speed Internet Committee, and that the Township of Puslinch endorses the recommendations of the Broadband Strategy Report, and that staff report back with funding options for the implementation of the recommendations.
Anything further you want to add, Councillor Ballmer?
Just, well, I'd like that report to include how the position would be structured, like whether it be not just how it be funded, but whether the mayor is concerned, whether it's a township position, a contract position, you know, that kind of question.
Then we could just say how it's structured and funded.
Yes, excellent, thank you. I have trouble being concise today.
is there any concern when we endorse the recommendations, and wasn't the recommendation to hire a member and pay them $8,000 a month? I don't believe that's the endorsement, as long as that wasn't the intent of this recent resolution.
Receive for information.
Yeah, and then the council direction to staff to report back on the structure and funding of the position.
Okay, I've made that change.
Okay. Can I get a mover for that, please? And then I'll ask if anybody needs clarification. Can I get a mover, please? Councilor Spillis, raise your hand. Thank you. Councilor Bailey? Okay, now, any questions on that? Councilor Spillis?
Oh, fine, thank you.
Okay, Councilor Bailey?
No, I'm okay.
Okay, Councilor Bulmer?
No questions.
Councilor Goida?
No questions.
I remembered you this time. All in favor? Councilor Spillis?
In favor?
Councilor Bailey?
In favor.
Councilor Bulmer?
In favor.
Councilor Goida?
In favor.
And I'm in favor. That's carried. I think Mr. McCann is still here, and Mr. James, thank you so much. Look forward to working with you in the future. They're out.
Thank you very much, Rob and Mike and Glenn.
Get my page back. Okay, so now we're on to the proposed parking bylaw. Mr. CEO, is there anybody from staff going to talk about this, or just go straight to council questions?
Ms. White Fox, did you want to maybe just give an update as to where we're at and what the intent of today is?
Sure, I actually have our consultant, Kevin Thompson, who's been helping us with this. He's on the call as well.
Oh, there he is.
Perfect.
Sorry about that, Kevin.
Everyone.
Just trying to keep it moving, but yeah, if there's anything you want to discuss with us prior to hearing questions from council, the floor is yours. Oh, you're muted, sir.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. And I'll just be very brief, and then I'll be available to take questions. And we have prepared the report that you have before you, dealing with various updates to the schedules to the parking bylaw. So, as council may be aware, the township has a parking bylaw that's adapted from the county-wide model bylaw for parking enforcement. Each municipality within the county has its own schedule that it adopts in terms of no parking or stopping areas within its jurisdiction. So what we have proposed today is an amendment that deals just with amendments to schedules to add additional no stopping, no parking zones, as well as adding municipal parking lots so that the provisions of the underlying bylaw can be enforced with respect to those municipal parking lots. Beyond that, we're not looking to do a comprehensive rewrite of what we have already in place. The idea is to enumerate specific no stopping, no parking in municipal parking lot areas that would allow our bylaw enforcement officers and the recently appointed public works staff to issue tickets for infractions in those areas. So I won't belabor my synopsis, but I'd be happy to answer any questions from council on the update.
Sorry, I had to tickle my throat. Thanks, Kevin. One thing I wanted to bring up, and it's in Schedule F, and it's Old Brock Road, and it's the no stopping restrictions, both sides, Wellington Road 46 to the eastern terminus of Old Brock Road. I don't believe that's our intention, because we're trying to support Aberfoyle as like a destination. Councilor Spillis and this council, we're advocating for lane changes in Aberfoyle. We've got the sidewalk from the school. We want to support those local businesses, but we do need a parking or stopping, I guess stopping restrictions more important during the bus times. And I'd leave it to staff or maybe the director of public works to determine, maybe even a phone call to the school, the bus time in the morning and the bus time in the afternoon. That was the intention of putting the sidewalk and get the kids off the road. And then, but now people are still parking there and it's very narrow for the school buses to come and go. So just not want a complete prohibition on parking there, just those hours of the day. And I have one other one.
I can address that, Mr. Mayor, very
Sure.
briefly. There is a schedule dealing with no parking at certain times of the day. So if there is direction from council to limit the no parking just to school bus drop-off pickup hours, it would be appropriate to remove it from Schedule E and place it into Schedule I of the bylaw, which is the time and day restrictions. And we'd be happy to do that if council so directs.
Okay, so I'll just quickly ask council if they're supportive of that. Councillor Spoulos?
Yes, it makes logical sense.
Okay, Councillor Bailey?
Yep, that makes sense. The timing, just because school's done at 3, I think, I don't know how the timing works, but you would want to accommodate people coming half an hour before then and 10 minutes after, you know, making sure the timing works for that.
I would ask staff to just liaise with the school.
Yeah.
And see what they recommend. Unfortunately, my children don't go to that school, so I'm not quite aware of the specific times.
And is that both sides of the road? That's what we said, right? Is in there?
I believe so for the school buses.
Okay.
They can park at the community center and walk over. Councillor Bummer?
Makes sense. I didn't notice if Coburn was on there as well, which could, buses often come in Coburn and out Old Brock Road. They utilize both roads. So do we need to make sure staff just checks out Coburn is treated the same as Old Brock Road? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know. I didn't mention it purposely because maybe some opportunity for some people to park there, but
Okay.
Again, I don't know. I don't know the dynamics of you know, individuals going to that school, and so.
Understood. And we're not written in stone. We can amend it if needed in the future. So
They get there early enough, they can park on Coburn.
Yep.
Councillor Goyda?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Okay. Mr. Thompson, do you need anything further on that one?
No, I think we'll liaise with the school, and subject to Courtney's thoughts, we'll bring back an amending bylaw that has that incorporated into Schedule I for council's review and approval.
So another concern, because I received quite a few parking complaints on the roads, Curry, Ock, so this is south of the 401, east of Highway 6 South. And on the other side, so west of Highway 6 South, there's parking prohibitions on Telfer Glen, and I've lived here 20 years and I always forget that back street, whatever it's called.
Settlers Court.
Settlers, thank you. And so do we need to mimic that parking restriction on the east side, or is there enough coverage that if they park a school bus and it impedes the lane of traffic or a transport truck, that they are actually in violation of our parking bylaw? Or is it better to list the road similarly to Settlers and Telfer Glen?
I'm not familiar exactly with the area you're referring to. I'm just trying to pull it up on a map now.
And it's an estate subdivision, Mr. Thompson, and both estate subdivision, east and west side, Highway 6. On the west side, we have parking restrictions. On the west side, we don't, and people are parking school buses and commercial vehicles and things of that nature on the road, and I'm getting a lot of complaints. So I wanted to treat them similarly. So here on like Schedule E, you have Telfer Glen, both sides no parking, and Settlers, Calfast, both sides no parking. So I'd want Curry added and Ox Drive added.
And that can certainly be done if that's the resolution today.
But my question is, unless there's adequate prohibitions within the current bylaw that if they're impeding traffic, then it's already not an issue, they can be ticketed. Maybe that's too thick of a, I'd rather just add it. I'll talk to council. Are you comfortable treating both sides of the road equally? Councillor Spoulos?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Councillor Bailey?
Yep, makes sense.
Okay, Councillor Bulmer?
Other than the fact I haven't heard any complaints from the east side, and I would be concerned about people having parties having their guests park in the road, and all of a sudden we're going to prohibit parking on these roads. Is that, well, they're I guess opposed on, it's not allowed on any road now. These are just where we're going to sign it.
Yeah. And they have long driveways. I mean, it's a big party. You can't have parties in COVID, Councillor Bulmer.
Oh, right, the parking bylaw doesn't extend beyond the period of COVID. I forgot that. No, I'm just, this is, have we had an issue on either side, either with the parking sign, no parking signs being in place on Telfer Glen, or not having them on Ox Drive?
I was receiving significant complaints about a school bus and transport trucks and
Ah,
things like
okay.
that. So I'm
All right.
hoping to sign it so then maybe that can stop.
understood.
Mr.
And
Thompson, maybe if we could ask Kevin, is there something in the bylaw that would deal with those commercial type vehicles on their own as opposed to posting it for no parking for everyone?
But there are some provisions dealing with commercial vehicle parking. I would have to go back and review with our bylaw enforcement officer whether he feels that he could issue a ticket for those situations that you've described, Mr. Mayor, in terms of transport trucks or school buses parking. I would want to refer back to our parking enforcement staff to see whether they would be able to uphold the issuance of a ticket based on what we have, or whether they feel more comfortable having it explicitly listed in the schedule as a no parking zone.
And that's
So that-
all I'm
that sounds-
after.
Yeah, that sounds like a solution that'll address the problem without hopefully creating any additional problems.
So as long as council's comfortable with that, if the bylaw currently enables the bylaw officer to enforce, then we can leave it as is. And if not, through direction of Kevin and the bylaw officer, they may add signage or add those streets to the bylaw. That's the intent, Mr. CAO.
That's correct.
Are you comfortable with that, Councillor Spose?
Yes, I am.
Councillor Bailey? Councillor Bulmer?
yes,
Councillor Goida?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Councillor Spose, you have anything for this one?
No, I don't. I'm good. Thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Bailey?
I'm not sure where, one example I'm thinking of is it's a Wellington County tract off of a township road. And I don't know where the parking allowance falls under. Specifically, it's on Watson Road.
Wellington County tract.
so
So
in
what's
the
the,
tract.
Near Badnaw.
It
near
is
the
the
Badnaw School. Yeah, the Badnaw tract.
so
And the next one.
what's your concern?
I'm just
Councillor
wondering
Bailey?
if that gets added, like, I was wondering what, if there are any properties missing from Schedule D that we hadn't thought of. That came up as a question.
So you would like it added or it's not on Schedule D?
No, it's not on Schedule D. And I don't know if it needs to be, or if if parking is allowed there.
Well, there's
You cut out, Mr. Mayor.
there's parking permitted. Oh, no, sorry. Let me see if Councillor Bailey, there is parking provided on the property, is there not?
No.
But I thought you could pull your car in. One or two cars.
Yeah, maybe there's a little gap there. Yeah, so that's allowed. That's what we're, I'm just trying to clarify what the rule is there, I guess.
Mr. Thompson? Who would be able to clarify that?
Mr. Fowler, you want to speak to that one maybe?
Yeah, currently there's a turnoff area. I would say it probably would support about 5 to 7 vehicles if parked properly.
Yeah.
So Councillors Bailey, are you experiencing concerns with people parking there out on the road or?
No, I haven't had any concerns there. I just wanted to make sure there weren't going to be, I guess, just planning ahead.
Okay, well, and it's a live document. If it can go either way, if there's concerns, we can address it later, or if people are getting inappropriately ticketed, and we can review that as well.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Balmer, any concerns?
Yeah, I'd be glad to leave that one unsigned since it's we haven't had any issues there yet. But 3 things I'd like to ask about. One is regarding no stopping, no parking signs. the top of the hill on Watson Road, just north of 34. It's not uncommon to have someone parked on the side of the road there, and then a vehicle coming around the curve has to swerve around into oncoming traffic just as they come around the curve at the top of the hill. Over the years, I've received phone calls and concerns from neighbors, and particularly from the resident that moved their driveway to the top of the hill. So it's now right across from where people often will be parked. And when we have trucks going both directions up over the hill and there's a car there, it's concerning. And even the school buses, when they come around there, then end up veering out into the oncoming lane to avoid a car parked on the side of the road there. So I'd like staff to consider adding that section to the no parking, no stopping. So I guess it's Schedule E and F, if that's possible. Would that be supported by staff or other members of council?
I'm supportive of that. Councillor Spoulos?
Yes, that's a very dangerous location. I agree with you.
Yeah, Councillor Bailey? I think she went to take her dog out. Councillor Goida?
Yes, I would definitely support that.
Okay.
Thank you. The other piece was we've now added the parking lots, and I don't know if we still have MPAC using spots in the community center parking lot overnight. But if we do we have planned a schedule update to the wording of the bylaw to permit that, or somehow allow that by agreement outside the bylaw?
That's a good point.
Yes,
Sorry, go ahead, Glenn.
we still do have that agreement with MPAC. It's up for renewal, but they expressed a desire to continue on with it. So then we do need to address that issue. Kevin?
Yeah, enforcement's always discretionary. So where that side agreement is in place with MPAC to allow that parking to operate overnight, then
Okay.
it would be a matter of directing enforcement that agreement's in place and to use the discretion, not issuing tickets in that scenario.
Okay, thank you. The last piece then would be that when this bylaw was first adopted by the township in 2005, it was immediately following the county adopting one similar with the same wording. But since then, the county has updated theirs, at least once that I'm aware of. I think it was 2015, a couple of definitions. So what's the schedule for bringing the text of this bylaw back up into being the same as the county's?
I can clarify that. So you're correct that in 2016, the county made some revisions to its text. It added the definition of boulevard, and it added a definition of shoulder. And it also added 2 new prohibition sections prohibiting parking on boulevards or shoulders. And in 2017, Post Lynch did bring forth a bylaw amendment, bylaw 12-2017, which did adopt these new definitions and prohibitions at the local level.
Perfect.
So that's already incorporated in the bylaw that's in force now.
Good.
Including those definitions and prohibitions. We're just looking at additional schedule changes now.
Thank you so much. That's all my questions.
Okay, Councillor Goida?
I just had I only have one quick question on the Schedule E, the no parking at any time. There is one of the items on there is Calfus Road between Brock Road and Concession 7, which is fine for the most part, except I do believe that between Highway 6 and I think is it Victoria Street, the small little street. If memory serves me correct, on both sides, there is like a paved collar or shoulder, or I'm not exactly sure what the definition to be used for that is, that I think would typically allow people to park there. And just in the interest of supporting some of those local shops in that little area that may park there and use the little shops in the village. By the wording in this, are we saying that that is no longer an option, or is that treated separately because it's not on the road itself?
That's a good catch, Councillor Goida, because they reconstructed that road and actually built parking spots there, and they're delineated with paint markings. So you're correct. There's probably 4 or 6 parking spots there. So that CalFast parking restriction should begin at Victoria Street and head west.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, not terminate at Highway 6. Does that make sense, Mr. Thompson?
Yes, it does. I'm just looking at the aerial now, and I agree with that suggestion.
Okay, just nods from councilors. You're comfortable with that? Yeah. The only other thing, I don't know if it was discussed, but the PCC, the intent of the parking bylaws, if people rent it for a wedding or a celebration, that they cannot leave their car. Like that, we're going to have some sort of means that they are able to leave their car for the night and then retrieve it the following day. Is that captured, or do you need direction on that today?
The only direction we would need is similar to what we arranged with MPAC. Is if there's a direction that we want to allow people to leave cars overnight, so there's no drinking and driving, etc., that a policy be adopted, for example, that exempts those parking enforcement, and then that trickles down to enforcement staff, and they're made aware. We certainly don't want people to be feeling that they have to move their cars at risk of getting a ticket.
Yeah, so that I see in count.
You're cutting out again, sir.
There's not there. It's just want to leave it with staff to develop a policy, or we'll leave it with council or with staff. And I see councilors nodding their heads. Are you all supportive of that, Councilor Bailey?
Yes, I'm in support of that. I do have one other question.
Sure.
Sorry, I don't know if I cut out. What is not on Schedule E is Queen Street, because my understanding is that is a provincial road. Kevin, maybe you can help me out, but I've just heard that someone is wanting to put in parking for the businesses there. And I just want to, I don't know how we're, sorry, I'm trying to think of how to word it. But I want to make sure we can't park on Queen Street.
Well, that falls under MTO jurisdiction, because Mr. Kanesh has been contacting the MTO, and they're going to create, I believe, a single parking spot for him, or for the local businesses there on Queen. So as Mr. Thompson knows different than myself, I believe it falls under MTO because that's who he's been dealing with.
And there's nothing we can do about that. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know if I want to.
That would be correct. That road's under MTO's jurisdiction. So the creation of parking spaces or the prohibition of parking spaces is entirely at MTO's discretion. We don't have a say in that.
It's not safe.
Okay. Any further questions? I think we went around. All right. We have a resolution from Ms. Whitebox.
Yes, that report ADM 2020-048 regarding the parking bylaw update and proposed parking enforcement strategy be received, and that council direct staff to revise the following. Remove Old Brock Road from Schedule E and liaise with the Aberfoyle Public School to determine no parking times, and add Old Brock Road to Schedule I. Investigate no parking restrictions for commercial vehicles with the bylaw enforcement officer, and if required, add Curry Drive and Ox Drive to Schedule E. Add Watson Road South at the top of Corwin Hill on the east side of the road to Schedule E and F. And that CalFast Road on Schedule E be revised to Victoria Street to Concession 7.
I have to admit, there's one other road in that subdivision. It's a cul-de-sac, and I'm trying to pull out my Google Maps. Why am I not finding it? For Curry and Ox, just so that we capture all three. Just give me 2 seconds. Just give me 2 seconds. Does anybody know the little cul-de-sac in Curry and Ox?
I believe it's Weiner, isn't it? Weiner Crescent. There's Weiner. There's a Weiner in the industrial park, and I think it's like 2 houses long. It ends in a field.
Lang, yeah, there's Weiner and there's Lang Court, Laing Court. And you're right, Councillor Balmer, is Weiner Court within that little subdivision. Did you capture that, Miss White Fox?
Yes, I've added both.
All right. Can I get a mover for that, please?
Sure. I'll move it.
Councillor Spoolis, seconder. Councillor Goida. All in favor, Councillor Spoolis,
In favor?
Councillor Bailey,
In favor?
Councillor Balmer,
In favor?
Councillor Goida.
In favor.
All right, that's carried. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Enjoy the rest of your day. Switched over to a different internet provider. We'll see how this goes. All right, next up is the report for site plan control fees, and maybe I'll ask Mr. Schwender to just give us a quick debriefing on this one.
Sure. This is just a follow-up to council's previous direction on requesting some more information on site plan control fees and the potential for reducing fees in that. And this information is provided to in response to that for council.
Okay. I should probably get a mover in a second so we can discuss it on a follow procedure. Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Bill Balmer.
Yeah, I'll move if you like.
All right, get a seconder was Councillor Spoolis. Any comments, Councillor Spoolis?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Councillor Bailey?
Nope, I'm good with that.
Okay, Councillor Balmer?
Just one, a well-written, clear report, but I noticed there was one line that said that the township's user fee and bylaw does not allow these fees to be waived. Is it just our bylaw that would prevent the township from waiving these fees, or is there anything else?
Thank you, Councillor Balmer. I can answer that question. Section 106 of the Municipal Act also states that a municipality shall not assist indirectly or directly with manufacturing businesses or other industrial commercial enterprises through the granting of bonuses. So it prohibits bonusing, which extends to the giving or lending of any municipal property, including money, guaranteeing, borrowing, leasing, or selling of any municipal property, or giving a total or partial exemption from any levy, charge, or fee. So these exemptions, there are some exemptions to Section 106 of the Municipal Act that relate to the Planning Act and to community improvement projects specifically if a municipality has a community improvement project area. But in general, the Municipal Act would also prohibit bonusing.
Okay, so thank you. So then that's the user fee bylaw is consistent with the Municipal Act as well. Okay, super. Thank you so much.
Councillor Gorda?
I just have one quick question. This report indicates that in 2020 to date, there's been a total of 9 pre-consultations. And I'm just curious to know, like as a comparison to the total number of planning applications, if that's a high number or a low number, or yeah, I guess what I'm really trying to understand is if the uptake on that is good or just sort of okay.
I think that the uptake on this has been excellent. So this would be the first year that we've actually had this process with an associated fee. So to have 9 applications come forward, whether they're for zoning amendments or for site plan, we feel like it's been a really good process to have, both for the applicant and for staff.
Okay, I agree. And that's what I wanted to know. Thank you very much.
Okay, all in favor, Councillor Spoolis?
In favor?
Councillor Bailey?
In favor?
Councillor Balmer?
In favor?
Councillor Gorda?
In favor.
Yeah, I'm in favor. That's carried. And if I'm reading this right, next thing we'll deal with is the correspondence. Groundwater report. We'll wait for Mr. Denhode. All right, Ms. White Fox?
Yes, I've just moved him over. He should be with us shortly.
Welcome, Stan. there.
There we go.
Hey, Stan. Nice to hear your voice.
Good afternoon.
It's been a long time.
It has been.
You've been keeping well?
Extremely well.
Good.
Spending a lot of time with my family, so 'cause we don't have anybody else.
No doubt. All right, well, I feel we'll just go through each of these reports. Do you want to give just a synopsis on each one? The first one would be groundwater report, CBM, Puslinch Pit, and then I'll open it up to council for questions.
Yeah, I didn't realize we were going through all of them, and I don't have them in front of me, but I can easily get them. The Puslinch Pit, as I recall, there wasn't anything fantastic to report on that.
Okay.
The water levels are all within historical ranges. So unless there's a question about that.
No, so I would suggest though is there's two reports that have indicators that there is some effect. Roselle is one, and why is the other one skipping my mind?
Dufferin and Aberfoyle number
Yeah,
2.
right.
Yep.
And those I'm sure you'll face some questions on. So this one here though, Councillor Spoulis.
I don't have any questions on 10.1.
Okay. Councillor Bailey. 10.1.
Yeah, no questions on 10.1. No.
Okay. Councillor Balmer.
No, nothing on 10.1.
Yeah. Councillor Goyda.
No questions.
Okay, you'll have the easies. Okay, 10.2. Any questions on that, Councillor Spoulis?
No, I do not.
Okay, Councillor Bailey.
Nope, I'm okay there.
Okay, Councillor Balmer.
No questions.
Okay.
Should we
And
have a
Councillor-
resolution for each one, Ms. White Fox?
Oh,
Yes, we do.
okay.
Maybe if
Let's
you're done with
just,
10.1 and 10.2, just have a resolution, then you're done with them.
I'll just ask Councillor Goyda if she has any questions on 10.2.
No questions.
All right, we'll go back for, I need a mover to, well, Ms. White Fox, read the resolution for 10.1, please.
The council received correspondence item 10.1 regarding 2019 groundwater monitoring report, CBM Puslinch Pit, license number 17600, and review prepared by Hardin Environmental Services Limited.
Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Bailey, seconder. Councillor Goyda,
Sure.
get you working. All in favor, Councillor Spoulis,
In favor?
Councillor Bailey,
In favor?
Councillor Bulmer,
In favor.
and Councillor Goyda.
In favor.
And then I'll get you to read the resolution for 10.2, please.
The council received correspondence item 10.2 regarding 2019 annual monitoring report, Dufferin Aggregate Aberfoyle Pit 2, and review prepared by Hardin Environmental Services Limited.
You're going to move for that, please. Councillor
I'll move.
Spoulis. Oh,
Okay.
I'll get you a second at Councillor Bulmer. All in
All right.
favor, Councillor Spoulis,
In favor?
Councillor Bailey,
In favor?
Councillor Bulmer,
In favor.
Councillor Goyda.
In favor.
All right, now we have 10.3. Any questions for that, Councillor Spoulis,
No, I do not.
Councillor Bailey,
Nope.
Councillor Bulmer,
No questions, thanks.
Councillor Goyda.
No.
Mrs. White Fox, you read the resolution for that one, please.
The council received correspondence item 10.3 regarding 2019 groundwater monitoring report, CBM Newbauer Pit license number 625284, and review prepared by Hardin Environmental Services Limited.
Okay, mover, please. Councillor Spoulis, second by Councillor Bailey. All in favor, Councillor Spoulis,
In favor?
Councillor Bailey,
In favor?
Councillor Bulmer,
In favor.
Councillor Goyda.
In favor.
All right. Now 10.4, Roselle Pit. Questions, Councillor Spoulis.
Yes, I have several questions, but the biggest issue for me is the excavation for Lake C. You provided some briefing notes, and you in your briefing notes, Mr. Den Haag, you indicated that you had sent a letter to the licensee in April, suggesting some recommendations to undertake prior to excavation of Lake C. Could you, for the record, comment on your recommendations and what whether or not those what response you had to those recommendations from the licensee.
Yeah, let me just pull those up. So I sent that this morning to the CAO, and basically our review of the pit starting back in March this year was that we are noticing water levels to decrease south and east of the pit. And in fact, we were contacted by the mayor last summer because one of the neighbors had issues with their pond, and CBM went in and tried to dig out part of the pond and made a little bit of a mess of it. But that is in some recognition that not everything is going well with an area south and west of south and east of the extraction area. So we reviewed that. We took into account the fact that there is some issue with the neighbor's pond, and our recommendation in earlier this year was basically to CBM to prepare an updated assessment of the local water well supply and private areas in the areas south and east of Lake C. They did an initial assessment back in 2006 when this application was made, and I felt that it was necessary now with the recognition of these lower water levels to go back and say, see who's got what is the condition of the ponds today, and if there are any dug wells, we should be paying some more attention to that area. So that was my first recommendation. My second recommendation was to review the construction evaluation of the effectiveness of the hydraulic barrier that was put in the area south and east of the Lake C in order to protect exactly what we're seeing now. And the idea was that a barrier would limit or mitigate any low water levels south and east of the of Lake C or of the extraction area. And if we're seeing water levels drop in those areas, then it might very well mean that the barrier is not as effective as we anticipate it to be, or they anticipate it to be. So I think it was prudent for them to take a review of their construction and possibly do some testing across that to see if the barrier was effective. And the third issue that I raised and recommendation was to develop a better complaint protocol that allows the township to be notified immediately if there is a complaint. And so we have a database of what is going on in the area. And in response to Councillor Sepulveda's question, have these been addressed or remedied? And the answer is no.
All right, so a couple other questions. Can you comment on the exceedance that's SW8?
Yeah, so this happened a number of years ago already, and the original groundwater modeling done for this site suggested that I think it's a 3-degree change. Anything greater than or it might be a 1-degree change, I can't recall, but anything greater than let's say a 1-degree change would cause a series of contingencies to be initiated by the licensee, and that included stopping extraction, evaluating what's going on, and then presenting those findings to the township and to the MNRF, and then going forward. So what happened is that the exceedance occurred. The temperature is higher at SW8 than is allowable, and I'd say 4 years ago, the township participated in a meeting with the MNRF and the licensee and the GRCA, and they recognized that this is an issue, and they basically requested that instead of having this 1-degree threshold, that it becomes an ecologically based assessment. And so that means Instead of just going strictly by this measurement of 1 degree change, they would be allowed to go in, count how many fish are still in the creek, count how many reds and how much spawning is still going on. And if it all looks good, then they get to continue on doing what they're doing. So that is what came out of that exceedance at SW8.
And then the last point, results of SW6 and SW12. You noted in your letter report that they were not submitted. Is there any concern that we did not receive these results?
The SW6 and 12 are in small tributaries that lead to either what we call the main creek. There's a main stream that feeds into the Speed River, or it actually goes to the Speed River itself. They had been showing some change in the past, and it was just noted that they were missed for some reason. There's has been no request to remove them in the from the monitoring program. So I suspect it's just an oversight. So I don't, so I haven't made that request, but I should just make the request to the consultant and say, hey, send me your results for SW6 and SW12.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, that's all the questions I have on Mr. Denhoog, but I'd like to move a motion that we send a letter to the licensee, which include Mr. Denhoog's November 25th letter, as well as the April 9th letter, and ask that the response include addressing the preparation of updated impact assessment of local water supply and private ponds in the area south and east of Lake C, undertake a review construction evaluation of effectiveness of the hydraulic barrier, C, developing a complaint process, and then providing results of SW6 and 12, and then providing the ecologically based assessment protocol due to the threshold temperature, and that this all be sent also to the NRF for the information.
Thank you, Councillor Sapoulos. I'll just give the councillors an opportunity to pose some questions to Mr. Denhoog, and then we'll work on your motion, okay? Councillor Bailey, any questions for Mr. Denhoog? My kids are home.
Yeah, no, those were great questions that have already been asked. I as well was concerned about temperature ranges, and I was concerned about decreased water levels, and I guess same thing. I'm just surprised that hasn't been kind of a response to the suggestions that have been made. So I guess, and I'm assuming the GRCA is also receiving some of the notifications as well when thresholds are exceeded. Is that correct?
Yes, response, Sarah, that or Councillor Bailey, the GRCA was at the table when the licensee came to talk about the exceedance and to move, request to move towards an ecologically based assessment.
Okay, thanks. No questions then.
Councillor Bulmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. Denhoog. Thank you for coming to the meeting. As you recall, the temperature thresholds and the concern over the neighbors' ponds are the two primary reasons why this was not approved by the township and why it was appealed, why it went to the OMB. And it's an important reminder that even when these things are agreed upon or put in place through an OMB process, that they really don't seem to have the teeth we'd like them to have, or the strength that we'd like them to have when they get in the hands of the ministry. And both of these are very concerning to me. And so I have a question about the thermal piece. You mentioned that 4 or 5 years ago, there was a meeting with the GRCA and other consultants regarding their request to go to well, I forget what you called it, but looking at the fish and ecologically based thresholds. That was never finalized or adopted, has it? Is it not? It's not in place.
No, because I don't know what it is.
Yeah, so it doesn't, we're still, so the temperature thresholds are still what they're supposed to be achieving. Is that correct?
That's correct. Unless the site plan has been changed, then
Yeah.
they are still bound by the original protocol.
Right, and what remedial actions could be taken by the operator to bring the pit back into compliance with those temperature thresholds that exist today?
That would not be very easy to do. The ponds are in place. Groundwater we require that charge in that area because they support they do support a trout fishery. So you couldn't put a barrier in place, for instance, to slow down that water to make it cooler, because you want that water to move through. The things that would help are distance. So you would have to fill in part of the pond, for instance, to allow more time of travel. But it'd have to be a permeable material. But you would have to increase that time of travel from the pond to the spring discharge, which is SW8 is the spring. You would have to increase that time and then allow the aquifer to attenuate some more of that temperature before it got there. So it's not an easy thing to do.
But in your report, you also mentioned, you just mentioned distance, but in your report, you also mentioned the thickness of the overburden above the water table. If we increasing that distance, would that help attenuate the temperature as well?
Well, that issue, and I can't recall when we mentioned the thickness above the water table, but this temperature threshold issue started even before going below the water table. Mm-hmm. That by virtue of just removing the overburden down to about 1.5 meters above the water table, that allowed some of the solar energy to penetrate deep enough to raise the temperature of the groundwater. So so it was already an issue. So going up, basically going below the water table probably exacerbated it, but it already started even before before below water table extraction commenced.
So then perhaps thickening of that overburden layer would help attenuate this. I'm just trying to look at options that, I guess I'd like to hold them accountable for the existing threshold since they've had 4 years to come up with other ones. To Councillor Sapoulis's point, I'd probably want to go a little harder than he's looking to push. I'd like to ask them to confirm that they will cease below water table extraction until these issues are addressed. And if they say no, then we ask the ministry to have them cease them. And if there's a way to mitigate this temperature impact by placing material there, if we can understand how much material would create the impact that we need or the change that they need, then I think we've got reasonable grounds to ask for them to do something to bring this site back into compliance with the existing requirements. And regarding the barrier, the silt barrier, similar there, it's no more below water table extraction until that question has been answered. So that's how I would like to put it to the ministry. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bulmer. Councillor Goyda.
Thank you, Mr. Denhout. It's nice to see you. I think the rest of council has done an excellent job of asking all the questions, so I have no additional questions to ask.
Okay. Brought up a point, speaking about this ecological monitoring with Coldwater Creek fish, they're very susceptible to temperature change. And currently the way they're operating is they keep wandering out, and if they're there, they're good. And then the next year, if they wander out, if they're not there, then it's bad, but then the damage is done. There's no way to reverse it because we're being reactive versus, so I'm following Councillor Bulmer's question line that we need to request them to stop before it's too late. Otherwise, you're going to destroy the fishery entirely. Is that somewhat of a fair statement, Mr. Denhold?
Well, in a way, something happened there to my feed because I was hearing Councillor Goida, and then it went back to Mayor Seeley. But did Councillor Goida have any question, or?
No, I don't have any questions.
How did
Thank
that
you.
work?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So then it just sped up, and then it went directly to Mayor Seeley. Okay, so the damage is done. Let's say that the pond is there. The pond is already upgraded into SW8. The thermal impact is there, and it's not getting any worse. It's once the pond is there, it's there, and then the temperature increase has occurred. And for the past 5 years, as you know, they've been monitoring the fishery and are finding that it's perfectly fine. They're finding the red count is the same as it always has been. There's young of the year in the right place at the right time. So you know, that's why they're asking to go to the ecologically based assessment. Even though there is a slight change in temperature, the brook trout can live and survive through quite a range of temperatures. If we are talking about the temperature going up to 25 degrees Celsius, sure, that's a problem. But now we've gone from, you know, 9 to 12 degrees, say, and brook trout are perfectly happy in you know, in the 12-degree water still. So that's, you know, I think that is the basis for the ecologically based assessment. You know, even though there is a slight temperature change, you know, has there actually been an impact, or could there be an impact happen in the future? And the answer is the pond is there, the impact has happened, it's not going to get any worse, no matter what they do at this point, because the pond that is in question is already right up against and as close to the Speed River as it's going to get. That water temperature is already increasing up to 25 degrees in the pond. And then by the time it gets, I think it's about 60 meters, by the time it gets to 60 meters, it's already down to that maximum of, say, 12 degrees as it discharges to that small tributary. And it used to discharge, say, at 9 degrees Celsius. So it has increased slightly. And their ecologists are Ken Dance, and he's been looking at this fairly carefully because of the issue. And you know, every year after year, they are finding that the trout are returning, they're spawning, and the young of the year are surviving.
Okay, that's fine, as long as the digging of the, was it C pond, the third pond, isn't going to do more adverse effects. But our delegation at AMO this year, the Minister of Natural Resources made a pretty bold statement that he said he's not aware of any below the water table extraction that had a detrimental effect. And well, you may classify this as minor because it's 9 degrees to 12, but we're seeing impacts on neighboring ponds, and you know, you're concerned about wells. So at some point I'm hoping we can forward this literature onto the MNRF to show that there are effects of below the water table extraction. But currently I'm comfortable with Councillor Sapoulis's motion as read, and depending on if we see some other information coming out of SW6 or SW12, we could maybe take a little stronger approach. But for now, I'm comfortable with Councillor Sapoulis. So do we get a mover for his, please? It's him. I'll get a seconder and we'll discuss his motion. Seconder, please.
I'll second it.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Bowman. Councillor Sapoulis, did you want to read it one more time quickly?
Yeah, move that the Hardin letter of November 25th, 2020, as well as the April 9th letter be forwarded to CBM for the response, which would include associated with Lake C, A, preparation of an updated impact assessment of local water supply and private ponds in the area south and east of Lake C, B, undertaking review, construction, evaluation of the effectiveness of the hydraulic barrier, C, developing a complaint process, and then addressing the threshold exceedances at SW8, providing results of SW6 and SW12, providing ecologically based assessment protocol in lieu of threshold temperature, and that the above be forwarded to the MNR, I'll add GRCA as suggested by Councillor Bailey.
All right, so all in favor, and if you have further comments, you can say it now as well. Councillor Bailey
No, it sounds really good.
and Councillor Bulmer.
Thank you. As I said, just to stiffen it up a little bit, I would like to include in the correspondence a request that they cease below water table extraction in Pond C until this work is done, to ensure that the problem doesn't get worse. As we saw with the temperature thresholds, despite it being crossed, they faced no consequence while they dithered around with this ecological, getting these ecological thresholds in place for the last 4 or 5 years. So I don't want to be in the same situation. I don't want to put our neighbors' ponds and wells in the same situation. So I'd like to make it explicit that we ask them to commit to ceasing below water table extraction of Pond C until those issues are resolved.
Councillor Spillis. Friendly amendment?
I'm fine with that. I take my guidance from our hydrogeologist and see if that makes sense. What I heard him say was it's there already and it's not going to get any worse. So I don't want to use a hammer when it's already fait accompli.
If I may, to
Sure.
Councilor Sepulus through the mayor, that's the temperature issue and the low water level issues are separate. The continued extraction of Lake C will exacerbate low water level conditions.
Okay, that's fine. Then I'll adjust the motion accordingly. Then associated with Lake C, cease all underwater extraction until A, B, C are done. Is that what you would like seeing, Councilor Bulmer?
Yes, thank you. It gives the operator an opportunity to demonstrate good faith in committing to this, and if they choose not to, it gives us then an opportunity to reach out to the MNR. But I always like giving them the opportunity to address our concerns.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Bailey, are you still supportive of that?
Yes, I am.
And Councillor Goida?
Yes, I would support that as well.
And that's passed. I assumed Councillor Spillis, you were in favor?
Absolutely.
Good work.
Thank you, Stan. Nice seeing you. I believe that's the last one. And do we need a resolution to receive his report, please?
Mr. Mayor, I have the resolution to receive the report as part of Councillor Sepoulis's resolution, if that's all right.
Okay, do we need to read it again? Because he only read his part. He didn't read the part that said to receive Stan's report. Sure, go ahead.
Sure, I can read it. The council received correspondence item 10.4 regarding 2019 groundwater monitoring report, Roselle Road Pit, license number 625189, and review prepared by Hardin Environmental Services Limited. And then following that was Councillor Sepoulis's resolution.
So I'm not going to have, do we need a new vote, Mr. Schwendinger, to receive that first part, or are we comfortable just they voted on it?
It would be good just to be sure to have one for information, for receive for information as well.
Okay, I move for that, please. Councillor Spillis, seconded by Councillor Bailey. All in favor, Councillor Bailey? Councillor Bulmer?
In favor.
Sorry, Councillor Spillis, I missed you, so I'll grab you now.
Favor?
And Councillor Goida?
In favor.
Awesome, so that's carried. Thank you, Stan.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. Keep well.
Thanks. We are.
All right, so now we're on to the 10.5. I know, Councillor Spillis, we have that earlier 6.4 that we have to talk about at some point during these. Did you want it with Grand River, or does it matter?
The 10.4 is basically a staff report, which is embodied in 10.6.
Okay. Let's, we have separate resolutions for each of these, Ms. White Fox?
So I have drafted a resolution that receives 10.5, 10.6, 10.7, 10.8, as well as the consent item 6.4. And then there was a recommended resolution that was provided as well, that is also part of that, receiving those items. So it's
We
one
need to go-
resolution. Sorry.
I'll ask some, oh, I got a bad echo. Do we need to go through each one of those individually, council, or can we just talk about them in general and look at I believe the motion? You comfortable with that? So we're gonna look at 10.5, 10.6, 10.7, 10.8 together and 6.4, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, that's how I have it drafted.
Comfortable with that, Councillor Spoulos?
Yes, I'm good with that. And the motion that I'm proposing links our previous motion as well. So basically what I'm suggesting is, whereas the Township of Uslinch has been copied on the following correspondence related to proposed amendments to the Conservation Authority Act contained in Schedule 6, Bill 229. A, Conservation Halton letter to Ontario Premier dated November 17, 2020. B, Hamilton Conservation Authority to Ontario Premier Ministers dated November 23, 2020. C, Grand River Conservation Authority to Ontario Premier dated November 24th, 2020. And then I say, and whereas council at its meeting passed the following motion, it's the entire motion that we provided. And then I go on to say, be resolved that the Township of Uslinch supports the views expressed in the above noted letters from Conservation of Halton, the Hamilton Conservation Authority, and the Grand River Conservation Authority, who provide vital services to the Township of Uslinch. And further, that this resolution be forwarded to the Premier, the Minister of Environment, Conservation Parks, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Municipal Natural Resources and Forestry, Minister of Finance, Conservation Ontario, MPP Tenardo, Arno, AMO, Roma, and all Ontario municipalities.
Thank you for preparing that, Councillor Spoulos.
Yes.
I wonder though, technicality, is Mr. Arnott an MPP as a Speaker of the House? I don't know if we're providing the proper title to him when we CC him. So if staff would just check on that. Because I remember reading one of his posts saying that first time in 28 years, he's not part of the government. So as a Speaker, I believe he's not part of the caucus. So anyways, need a second for that, please. Anyway, Councillor Goyda, all right, let's talk about it. Councillor Bailey, there's been a lot of information with these CAs, I know.
Oh, I think that sounds really great. Yeah, I like the wording in it, and I definitely want to support that.
Okay. Councillor Balmer?
I think it's sufficiently comprehensive, and if I were to say anything more, I would likely say something that I would regret about the whole idea. So I'll pass it on. Thank you for Councillor Spoulos for putting all the work into pulling all that together.
Well, it's something I feel passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
I do too. As a governance wonk, you know, it's the attack on government. Okay, here I'm going to say something. You know, it just demonstrates such a lack of understanding and lack of experience on governance matters, corporate governance at all levels, to what they're talking about. And I look at, you know, the mayors of our member municipalities have to walk this line all the time. When you're, as a member of this board, because that's what we are, we're a municipal corporation, we're directors. Our mayor can't take his hat off when he attends council meetings at the county, and he manages that balancing act and manages to fulfill his fiduciary duties to the county while remembering his duties here to this corporation at the same time. And I think that happens all over the place. And I think it's a good thing when people bring those experiences, both their other fiduciary duties to other organizations, and when the residents bring their skills, as your high-speed committee just demonstrated, bringing community skills to the table often gets things done that may not otherwise get done. So thank you for putting that together. Councillor Bulmer out.
Councillor Goyda.
That was very well said, Councillor Balmer. Thank you, Councillor Spoulos, for putting that together. It sure is a mouthful, but given that these are the conservation authorities within our municipality, I think it's important and I think it's meaningful to provide our support. So of course, I would support that motion, and thank you for all the work you put into it.
Awesome. I love when Matthew has a gripe with somebody, he says it so gently and so politely. It's excellent. All right, all in favor, Councillor Bailey. Sorry, Councillor Spillis, I gotta start with you. It's your motion.
Favor?
Councillor Bailey,
In favor.
Councillor Balmer,
In favor.
Councillor Goida.
In favor.
In favor, that's carried. Thanks again, Councillor Spillis, great job.
No problem.
Yeah, I'm frustrated with it as well. I mean, we all had this conversation. Hopefully
Yes.
they see the light and realize they don't need to fix this. Mayor's updates, I don't really have anything right now. Council, do you have anything you want to discuss? Oh, okay. Bylaws. Ms. Whitefox. Oh, do we need a resolution to receive no reports from council?
No,
Okay, good. Bylaws.
That the following bylaw be taken as read 3 times and finally passed in open council. Bylaw 2020-056 being a bylaw to enter into an automatic aid agreement with the corporation of the city of Cambridge.
Your mover for that, please. Councillor Spillis, seconder. Councillor Bailey, all in favor. Councillor Spillis,
In favor?
Councillor Bailey,
In favor.
Councillor Balmer,
Favor.
Councillor Goida.
In favor.
Excellent, that's carried. I believe we're going to go into closed session now. So for the attendees in the gallery, we appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch our exciting council meeting. And I believe you'll read a resolution, Ms. Whitefox.
That council should go into closed session under section 239 of the Municipal Act for the purpose of adoption and receipt of the minutes of the previous closed meeting being November 18th, 2020. Closed meeting, confidential report from Megan Ferris, County of Wellington Planner, and Kevin Thompson, Smith Villariat Law Firm regarding litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, LPAT Appeal, PL 2037, and confidential report 2020-ADM-051 from Courtney Hoyfox, Deputy Clerk, regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, being the kennel housekeeping amendment update.
Thank you. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Balmer, I saw you move your arm.
Okay.
I'll get a seconder, please. Councillor Spillis, all in favor? Councillor Spillis,
In favor?
Councillor Bailey,
In favor.
Councillor Balmer,
In favor.
Councillor Goida,
In favor.
and we're into closed. Well, not quite yet. Okay, Ms. Whitefox, can you read the resolution to come out of closed, please?
The council moves into open session at 4:52 p.m.
All right, get a mover for that, please. Councillor Spillis, seconder. Councillor Goida, all in favor. Councillor Spillis,
In favor?
Councillor Bailey,
In favor.
Councillor Balmer,
In favor.
Councillor Goida,
In favor.
and Ms. Whitefox.
The council receives the adoption and receipt of the minutes of the previous closed meeting being November 18th, 2020 closed meeting. The confidential report from Megan Ferris, County of Wellington Planner, and Kevin Thompson, Smith Villariat regarding litigation or potential litigation, including matters before an administrative tribunal affecting the municipality or local board, LPAT Appeal PL 2037. The confidential report 2020 ADM 051 from Courtney Hoyfox, Deputy Clerk, regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, being the housekeeping kennel amendment update, and that the township accepts the draft zoning bylaw amendment presented to council in its closed meeting on December 2nd, 2020, that council authorized the CAO clerk to enter into minutes of settlement with the applicant appellant to seek approval of the draft zoning bylaw amendment from the LPAT, and that council direct its legal counsel to attend at the presumptive LPAT settlement hearing on December 8th, 2020.
Excellent. Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Spillis, I saw you move. How about a seconder? Councillor Bailey? Let's say it. Yep. Okay, all in favor. Councillor Spillis,
In favor?
Councillor Bailey,
In favor.
Councillor Balmer,
In favor.
Councillor Goida.
In favor.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Any business arising from the closed session? I believe Kevin's going to leave us, but seeing none. All right. I have a notice of motion that I want to read. Just make sure you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So I'm going to read a notice of motion. The council approved a 1.5% tax levy increase to the capital budget recurring to support the direction of council to create gravel roads improvement / paving program. The council approved the allocation of the equivalent of a 1.5% capital tax levy increase to be offset either by the contribution to the asset management reserves or the budget surplus for 2020. And that council deliberate this notice of motion at the next meeting of council where the budget is considered. So that is that. Did you capture that, Ms. Whitefox? I could probably email you that.
I thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have that noted in the minutes.
Okay. Any other notice of motion from anyone? Councilor Spillis?
Yes, that staff be requested to prepare a report regarding the frequency of council meetings during these COVID times.
Okay. Thank you. Any further? Okay. New business. Any new business? No. Announcements. We'll go to council first.
Under new business, were you going to take care of that one item, Mr. Mayor, with the alternate?
Oh, shoot. Yes. Sorry, thank you. I didn't write it down. Ms. Whitefox, do you have the resolution? I had it. I think I printed it.
Yes.
Can you read? So I'll just give a quick verbal here, and then I'll have Ms. Whitefox read the resolution. Some legislation changed recently, and it allows you to designate an alternate at the upper tier council meetings, so that if there's an absence, which hasn't occurred as of yet, but just to plan for the future in case COVID takes me down, or who knows, just life in general. I spoke with Councillor Balmer, and I requested that he look into becoming the alternate for me at county council, and I'm just hoping that council can support Councillor Balmer in that position for me in case I'm unable to attend. So Ms. Whitefox, you have a resolution?
Be it resolved that council hereby appoints Councillor Balmer as the alternate member to the upper tier for the 2018 to 2022 term of council.
And just for discussion, Councillor Spillis.
I'm fine. He's the most experienced of us here, and he doesn't need much maintenance, so I'm good.
Wow.
Councillor Bailey.
I'm in agreement with your with your alternate choice.
Okay, and Councillor Goyda.
I would agree with that as well.
Yeah, thank you for supporting us on that. And I don't foresee any absence, but it's just nice to make sure that we're represented up there if need be.
Thank you, members of council. Appreciate that.
Did you want to say anything else, Councillor Balmer? You got an acceptance speech, or
Concise is the point of the day today. So
yeah. Do I have to have a vote
Balmer
on
out.
that? Balmer
yes.
out.
But thank you.
I think everybody's in favor. Ms. Whitefox, you can just, or do you need me to actually call people?
I just need, I'm not sure if I missed the mover and seconder.
I'll just, Councillor Spillis, will you move it?
I'll move it.
Councillor Goyda, will you second it?
Sure.
And then all in favor, Councillor Spillis,
In favor?
Councillor Bailey,
In favor?
Councillor Balmer,
In favor.
Councillor Goyda.
In favor.
Okay, thank you. Back to announcements. Anybody have anything before I go to Ms. Whitefox? No, Ms. Whitefox?
Thank you. I wanted to give an update on the Bang the Table initiative. And I just wanted to start by thanking our CAO for bringing this community engagement platform to Puss Lynch, and also thanking council for supporting it. And of course, I want to thank our admin staff for their creativity and their hard work on this. We've been working on the website over the past couple months, and we're very impressed with the usability and functionality of the website. I think that the community is really going to enjoy it. It's a really easy to use platform, so we're excited to get that launched. So we've given the Bang the Table website the name Engage Puss Lynch. So that's what you'll see across the heading of the website there. And it's going to be linked to the township website, probably on various pages, just to kind of promote visitation to the site and just make sure that the two sites are linked together properly. So I just wanted to give a quick synopsis of the projects that we are starting with for this platform. We're pretty excited about it. The first one is going to be an ongoing project that will remain on the site, and it's called Good News Stories. So this is a platform where the community can share positive stories about something that's happened in the township. So it can be about people or places or a particular event. So that's something that's going to remain, and we think that that's even more important now, just given kind of tough times. So we're excited to see what the community shares. The second project, also excited for, is called Puss Lynch Website Photo Competition. So this is kind of, we're using this to complement our new township website that we have. And what we're doing is we're asking the community to provide photos that they've taken within the township to be included on our new website. So wherever they may fit on the website. And we've created 6 categories where photos can be submitted. So they're trails and hiking. So we have a lot of great outdoor spaces in the township. So if someone wants to submit a picture of where they've been hiking or a trail or that, festivals and events, places of worship, Puss Lynch heritage. We have a lot of great heritage in the township. So kind of shining a light on that. Local shops and restaurants, industry and community stakeholders. So to kind of hear from our industry and see if they have any cool photos to share. And then lastly, my favorite, Puss Lynch pets. So I think that one may get quite a bit of activity. So that'll be our photo competition. And the way we've designed it is staff is going to shortlist the photos that are submitted into the categories. And then we'd actually pose it for a vote. So the community can come on and vote for their favorite photo for each category. And then we're going to use that somewhere on the website, and we'll give the individual photo credit on the website, which is kind of neat as well. So the site is actually scheduled to go live on December 7th. So that's this Monday. And we have the Good News Stories kind of up ongoing. And then the photo competition will run from December 7th to January 31st. So we'll have a media release kind of prepared for that too over the next few days. And that's it. Thank you.
Excellent. Councilor Spoolis, anything?
No, that's good. It's really good. Get the community involved, get them used to using this bang the table software, and open it up for other engagements on other more topical issues.
Okay, excellent. Councilor Bailey?
Yeah, this is super exciting to get it up and going. Can't wait to see the response on this.
Councilor Balmer?
Thank you, Ms. White Fox. That sounds very interesting. And it'll also help, I think, staff engage with the community and the community engage with staff. And I think that's an important part that our staff recognize they're part of this community too. They don't, and we want you to feel that when you work here. So I'm looking forward to seeing this. Well, wait, if that's a silly thing to say, I'm looking forward to having this up.
Councilor Goyda.
Right. Sorry. Yeah, no, this is really awesome. And I didn't actually realize this was being launched next week. So that's awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited to see it. Thank you very much.
So when we do go ahead and launch this, obviously, if you could share that within your circles as well, and try and encourage people to go there and participate and share that. The more we get out, the better.
I want to know how staff had time to work on this. And you guys are just every time you turn around, something else is finished or completed. Thank you so much for all your hard work. That's great. Now I've lost my agenda. Unless there's any further announcements. No. All right, confirmatory bylaw.
That the following bylaw be taken as read 3 times and finally passed in open council. Bylaw 2020-057 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council for the corporation of the township of Puss Lynch at its meeting held on the 2nd day of December 2020.
Thank you. I'll get a mover for that, please. Councilor Spillis, seconder. Councilor Bailey, all in favor. Councilor Spillis.
In favor?
Councilor Bailey.
Favor?
Councilor Balmer.
Favor.
Councilor Goyda.
In favor.
Excellent. And adjournment, please.
The council hereby adjourns at 5:03 p.m.
Thank you. Mover, please. Councilor Spoolis, seconder. Somebody put their hand up.
Sure.
Councilor Goyda, all in favor. Councilor Spoolis.
In favor?
Councilor Bailey.
In favor?
Councilor Balmer.
In favor.
Councilor Goyda.
In favor.
Thank you, everyone. Good
Push
work.
Lynch out.
Puss Lynch out.
Out.
I needed you to drop a mic.